Welcome to Funny EHS Info. In today's video, we'll be discussing SBTET Industrial Safety Paper 7, IS107, focusing on safety in the chemical and petrochemical industry. This video will cover crucial safety practices, hazards, and preventive measures specific to these industries. Whether you are studying for exams or enhancing your safety knowledge, this guide will help you understand the key concepts needed for success. Stay tuned as we dive into the world of chemical and petrochemical industry safety. 1. Define fire tetrahedron. The fire tetrahedron is a model that describes the 4 essential elements required for fire: heat, fuel, oxygen, and a chemical reaction. To name 4 inspection techniques: visual inspection, ultrasonic testing, radiographic testing, and magnetic particle testing. 3. What is a work permit system? A work permit system is a formal procedure used to control high-risk work activities by ensuring that proper safety measures are in place before work begins. 4. What is the main aspect of color coding of pipelines and its advantages? The main aspect is to identify the contents and the nature of the hazards in pipelines. Advantages include improved safety, ease of maintenance, and quick identification of hazardous materials. 5. What are the locations for using explosives? Explosives are used in mining, construction, demolition, and quarrying. 6. What is an unfired pressure vessel? An unfired pressure vessel is a container designed to hold pressure but not to generate heat or steam, such as storage tanks. 7. Define unit operation and unit process. Unit operation, a physical process such as filtration or distillation. Unit process, a chemical process such as oxidation or polymerization. 8. Classify hazardous materials. Hazardous materials can be classified as flammable, corrosive, toxic, reactive, and explosive. 9. What is the purpose of a work permit system? The purpose is to ensure that all necessary safety precautions are taken before starting potentially hazardous work. 10. Define deflagration and detonation. Deflagration, a subsonic combustion process where the reaction front moves slower than the speed of sound. Detonation, a supersonic combustion process where the reaction front moves faster than the speed of sound. 11. What is zoning? Explain types of zones. Zoning refers to the practice of dividing an area into different zones based on the risk of explosion or fire. Types of zones include Zone 0, Zone 1, and Zone 2 for explosive atmospheres, and different zones for fire safety like high-risk or low-risk areas. 12. What are protective precautions for toxic materials? Use appropriate personal protective equipment, PPE, ensure proper ventilation, and follow safe handling procedures. 13. What are the hazards of chlorine? Chlorine is hazardous as it is toxic, corrosive, and can cause respiratory issues and chemical burns. 14. Define autoignition temperature. The autoignition temperature is the minimum temperature at which a substance will spontaneously ignite without an external flame or spark. 15. What is spontaneous combustion? Spontaneous combustion is the ignition of a material due to an internal chemical reaction that generates enough heat to reach its ignition temperature. 16. What is TLV, threshold limit value? TLV is the maximum concentration of a chemical substance in the air that a worker can be exposed to without adverse effects. 17. What is a rupture disc? A rupture disc is a safety device designed to burst at a predetermined pressure to relieve excess pressure in a system. 18. What is the difference between a vent pipe and an overflow pipe? A vent pipe allows gases or vapors to escape from a system, while an overflow pipe prevents the liquid level from rising too high and spilling over. 19. What are the components of the fire weather index? Components include temperature, humidity, wind speed, and precipitation. 20. What is the difference between a safety valve and a rupture disc? A safety valve can be reset after activation and regulates pressure automatically, while a rupture disc is a one-time use device that bursts at a set pressure. 21. What are the effects of inhaling fumes? Inhaling fumes can cause respiratory irritation, coughing, shortness of breath, and long-term health issues such as lung damage. 22. What are the hazards and precautions for storing pesticides? Hazards include toxicity and flammability. Precautions include proper labeling, secure storage in a cool, dry place, and using PPE. 23. What is a fired pressure vessel? A fired pressure vessel is designed to contain pressure and is heated by an external source, such as a boiler or furnace. 24. List the classification of explosive material. Explosive materials are classified into categories such as detonators, blasting agents, and high explosives. 25. What is meant by fire explosion? Fire explosion refers to a sudden and violent release of energy from a fire, often due to the accumulation of flammable gases or vapors. 26. What are the advantages and disadvantages of fire extinguishers? Advantages: quick response to fires, various types for different fires, and portability. Disadvantages: limited effectiveness on large fires, can be misused if not properly maintained, and may cause harm if used incorrectly. 27. Explain the UN classification of hazardous goods. The UN classification system categorizes hazardous goods based on their physical and chemical properties. They are divided into classes and divisions. Class 1 – Explosives. Class 2 – Gases, compressed, liquefied, or dissolved under pressure. Class 3 – Flammable liquids. Class 4 – Flammable solids, spontaneously combustible materials, and materials that, in contact with water, emit flammable gases. Class 5 – Oxidizing substances and organic peroxides. Class 6 – Toxic and infectious substances. Class 7 – Radioactive materials. Class 8 – Corrosive substances. Class 9 – Miscellaneous dangerous substances and articles. 28. Describe the entry permit system and the information it discloses. The entry permit system is a formalized procedure used to control and document access to high-risk areas. It ensures that specific safety conditions are met before entry is permitted. Information typically disclosed includes description of the work to be performed, location and duration of the work, safety precautions and protective measures required, potential hazards and control measures, signature of the permit issuer and receiver, date and time of issue and expiration. 29. What are the effects of fire explosion? Fire explosions can cause blast pressure, high-pressure shock waves that can damage structures and cause injuries. Heat damage, intense heat can cause burns, ignite other materials, and damage equipment. Debris, flying debris from the explosion can cause injuries and structural damage. Toxic fumes, release of harmful gases and chemicals that can lead to respiratory issues and poisoning. Secondary fires, explosions can trigger secondary fires, compounding the damage. 30. Explain the function and procedures of different flame detectors. Ionization flame detectors detect flames based on the ionization of gases in the flame. They are used in environments with visible flames. Ultraviolet, UV, flame detectors detect UV radiation emitted by flames. Suitable for detecting flames in a variety of conditions. Infrared, IR, flame detectors detect IR radiation emitted by flames. Effective in environments with varying light conditions. Combination detectors utilize both UV and IR sensing to provide more reliable flame detection. 31. Discuss the importance of material safety data sheets, MSDS. What information do they contain? Importance: MSDS provide critical information on the safe handling, storage, and emergency measures for chemicals. They are essential for ensuring workplace safety and regulatory compliance. Contents: chemical identity and common names. Hazards identification. Composition and ingredients. First aid measures. Firefighting measures. Accidental release measures. Handling and storage requirements. Exposure controls and personal protection. Physical and chemical properties. Stability and reactivity. Toxicological information. Ecological information. Disposal considerations. Transport information. Regulatory information. 30. To define hazardous processes as per the Factories Act and list 10 chemicals covered under Schedule 1. Hazardous processes as per the Factories Act. Hazardous processes are industrial operations that involve handling, processing, or storing materials that pose a risk to health or safety. Chemicals under Schedule 1. Examples of 10 chemicals covered: asbestos, benzene, arsenic, lead, mercury, cyanides, phosgene, nitric acid, sulfur dioxide, formaldehyde. 33. What are the precautions to be observed during blasting operations? Precautions: ensure proper training and certification of personnel. Use appropriate blasting equipment and maintain it in good condition. Conduct thorough risk assessments and site inspections. Establish and enforce exclusion zones around the blasting area. Use proper protective equipment and safety measures. Follow strict protocols for handling and storing explosives. Ensure communication and coordination among team members. 34. Explain color coding of pipelines and its identification system. Color coding. Color coding is used to identify the contents of pipelines and their associated hazards. Identification system: red, flammable liquids; blue, compressed gases; yellow, corrosive substances; green, water or cooling fluids; orange, hazardous chemicals; black, oil or petroleum products; white, non-hazardous materials. Color codes may vary by industry or region, so it is important to follow specific standards. 35. Describe the types of corrosion and methods for its prevention. Types of corrosion: uniform corrosion, even wear across the surface due to chemical reaction. Pitting corrosion, localized damage creating small holes or pits. Crevice corrosion occurs in confined spaces where corrosive agents can accumulate. Galvanic corrosion, caused by the electrical contact between dissimilar metals. Stress corrosion cracking, cracking due to the combination of tensile stress and corrosion. Prevention methods: use of corrosion-resistant materials. Application of protective coatings. Regular maintenance and inspections. Proper design to minimize crevices and contact between dissimilar metals. Control of environmental factors like moisture and temperature. 36. What safety precautions should be taken to prevent chemical plant explosions? Safety precautions: implement rigorous safety and maintenance protocols. Use explosion-proof equipment and design facilities to withstand explosions. Install and maintain proper ventilation systems to prevent gas accumulation. Monitor and control process conditions to prevent overheating or pressure buildup. Train employees on emergency response and safe handling of chemicals. Conduct regular safety drills and inspections. 37. Explain the safety precautions for working on pipelines and safe entry procedures. Safety precautions. Verify that pipelines are de-energized and isolated before work begins. Use lockout-tagout procedures to prevent accidental re-energization. Wear appropriate personal protective equipment (PPE). Ensure proper ventilation if working inside pipelines or confined spaces. Follow confined space entry procedures if applicable. Conduct pre-work safety assessments and ensure communication among workers. 38. Describe the safety measures to be taken during the transportation of hazardous materials. Safety measures. Use appropriate containers and labeling for hazardous materials. Ensure vehicles are equipped with safety equipment and meet regulatory requirements. Train personnel in the handling and transportation of hazardous materials. Provide proper documentation and emergency response plans. Monitor transportation conditions to prevent leaks or spills. Follow all local, national, and international regulations for hazardous material transportation. 39. List and explain the steps to be followed in the machine lockout procedure. Steps. Preparation. Identify all energy sources and equipment to be locked out. Notification. Inform all affected employees that a lockout is in progress. Shutdown. Turn off the equipment using normal shutdown procedures. Isolation. Disconnect all energy sources and isolate the equipment. Lockout tagout. Apply lockout devices and tags to all energy isolation points. Verification. Verify that the equipment is de-energized and cannot be operated. Maintenance. Perform maintenance or repairs as needed. Restoration. Remove lockout devices and restore energy sources, then test the equipment. 40. Explain fire and explosion hazard analysis. Fire hazard analysis involves identifying potential fire hazards, assessing their risk, and implementing control measures to prevent fires. Explosion hazard analysis involves identifying potential sources of explosion, assessing their risk, and implementing control measures to prevent explosions. Both analyses include evaluating materials, processes, equipment, and environmental conditions to minimize fire and explosion risks. 41. What are the salient features of dose fire, explosion, and toxicity index? Dose index provides a numerical rating for chemicals based on their fire, explosion, and toxicity hazards. Salient features. Fire index rates the flammability of the chemical. Explosion index rates the explosive potential of the chemical. Toxicity index rates the health hazards associated with the chemical. Helps in assessing risks and implementing safety measures. 42. What are the safety precautions for working with pesticides and toxic substances? Safety precautions. Use appropriate PPE such as gloves, masks, and protective clothing. Ensure proper ventilation in work areas. Follow safe handling, storage, and disposal procedures. Train workers in the safe use of pesticides and toxic substances. Provide first aid and emergency response procedures. Regularly review and update safety protocols. 43. Explain the safety measures for confined space entry and list 3 factors that define a confined space. Safety measures. Conduct a thorough risk assessment before entry. Use appropriate PPE and monitoring equipment. Ensure proper ventilation and emergency rescue plans are in place. Obtain necessary permits and follow entry procedures. Factors defining a confined space. Limited or restricted means of entry and exit. Not designed for continuous occupancy. Potential for hazardous atmosphere or conditions. 44. Write the difference between safety valve and a rupture disc. Safety valve automatically opens to release pressure and can be reset after activation. Rupture disc, a one-time use device that bursts at a set pressure to relieve excess pressure, cannot be reset. List down important points for the prevention of corrosion in pipelines carrying liquid chemicals. Use corrosion-resistant materials and coatings. Regularly inspect and maintain pipelines. Control the chemical composition of liquids to minimize corrosive effects. Apply cathodic protection to prevent galvanic corrosion. Ensure proper design to minimize stress and turbulence in pipelines. 45. What is the role of validity and reliability in safety assessment? Validity ensures that the safety assessment measures what it is intended to measure and accurately reflects the safety risks. Reliability ensures that the assessment provides consistent results when repeated under similar conditions. Both are crucial for accurate and effective safety evaluations. 46. What are the general principles of safety in explosive operations? Follow strict safety protocols and regulations. Use proper storage and handling techniques for explosives. Ensure thorough training and certification for personnel. Conduct risk assessments and maintain communication during operations. Implement safety measures to prevent accidental detonations. 47. Explain special safety precautionary measures for handling flammable liquids and gases. Store in appropriate containers and away from ignition sources. Use proper ventilation to prevent vapor accumulation. Employ explosion-proof equipment and grounding techniques. Follow safe handling and transfer procedures. Use PPE and provide emergency response training. 48. What are the procedures for storage and handling of HCl? Store HCl in cool, dry, well-ventilated areas away from incompatible materials. Use corrosion-resistant containers and equipment. Implement secondary containment to prevent spills. Follow safety protocols for handling and use PPE. Provide training and emergency procedures for accidental releases. 49. Discuss the characteristics of unit operation and unit process in the chemical industry. Unit operation, a physical process such as separation, mixing, or filtration used in the chemical industry. Unit process, a chemical reaction or transformation such as oxidation or polymerization used to produce desired products. Both are essential for designing and operating chemical processes efficiently. 50. What is the significance of MSDS and its contents? Significance: MSDS provide critical safety and handling information for chemicals, helping to ensure safe use and compliance with regulations. Contents includes information on chemical properties, hazards, handling, storage, emergency measures, and regulatory information. 51. What are the hazards in confined space work, and how do you ensure safety? Hazards: poor ventilation leading to oxygen deficiency. Presence of toxic gases or fumes. Risk of engulfment or entrapment. Safety measures: conduct thorough risk assessments. Ensure proper ventilation and monitoring. Use PPE and emergency rescue plans. Obtain necessary permits and follow entry procedures. 52. How can you prevent corrosion in an industrial setup? Use corrosion-resistant materials and coatings. Apply regular maintenance and inspections. Control environmental conditions like humidity and temperature. Implement proper storage and handling procedures. Use corrosion inhibitors and protective coatings. 53. Explain inspection techniques in a plant. Visual inspection, observing equipment and systems for obvious signs of damage or malfunction. Ultrasonic testing, using high-frequency sound waves to detect internal defects. Radiographic testing, using X-rays or gamma rays to examine internal structures. Magnetic particle testing, using magnetic fields and particles to detect surface and near-surface defects. 54. How is hazardous waste classified, and what are the disposal guidelines? Classification. Hazardous waste is classified based on its characteristics, such as ignitability, corrosivity, reactivity, and toxicity. Disposal guidelines. Follow local, national, and international regulations. Use licensed disposal facilities and methods. Ensure proper labeling and handling during transport. Implement safety measures to prevent environmental contamination. Thanks for watching. For guidance on important topics and key questions for the exam, don't forget to follow my channel, Funny EHS Info. We provide you with the best content to help you excel in your career.
This is all about today's topic. Thanks for watching Funny EHS Info. And don't forget to subscribe our channel to get immediate notification of our videos. Share our videos to your friends and colleagues to create safety awareness. If you have any questions and requirements, please comment in comment box.